I'm Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Stories, where I tell funny stories from my past or go on a rant in an effort to make you laugh. And this week, I'm going to give you an example of why as parents, we cannot fix all their problems. See, I get crap from people all the time because they act like I don't care about my kids. Because they get into certain troubles and I don't do anything about it. I actually refuse. It's not because I don't love them. It's actually the opposite. It's because I do love them. And I grew up in a time where it was very clear that there were some things you had to deal with on your own. And where I understand that not everything they did in our generation was perfect, that's one I actually agree with. For example, living where we live, there's lots of kids around, and there's a couple that love to pick on my oldest son. And I've had stupid parents come up to me and be like, "Why don't you do something about it?" And I'm like, I have. I've told him what he should do. But they still pick on him. Right? And I've told him if they ever try to get physical back. He's bigger than them. I don't know where he gets that from. But at this point, he's done that. He's gotten in their face. He's tried to goad them in a fight. They didn't pick up on it because, well, the main one that likes to talk crap to my son is a bitch. Oh, yeah. And I've dealt with that kind of bully. He doesn't want to fight my kid who towers over him. He knows he's going to beat the crap out of him. So he backed down, but he still talks crap. That's not going to stop. If the kid and my son would fight, they'd probably end up friends. I mean, like, how many of us have stories where that's how we became friends with our best friends? But that's a story for another day. But seriously, they'll sit here and be like, "Well, don't you think it hurts his self-esteem?" In his case, not really. I think it just does what it did to me, which is makes him have to become wittier. Because I will say this, he is my son. He's like me. So he's not the wittiest out there now. And even to me, like, I've told him just use your wit. He's been like,
"But Dad, I'm not as quick-witted as you."
Well, of course not. I've had years and years to get good at it. You're young. You come at me as like trying to challenge Ali because you think you can box. But you going up against these kids, you're way ahead of them because they're sitting there calling you stupid, calling you dumb. And you're calling them things that I can't say and keep my rating on this channel. But as far as his self-esteem, do I worry about it? Sure, of course I do. But what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go out there and insult the kids? Now I'm just an old guy picking on children. Which I'm not above, but it does get frowned on. But I've told these people I've done what I can. I've taught him how to fight. Like, obviously I'm not some kung fu master or something, but he knows how to throw a punch. I've taught him when to fight, and I've given him things to say to them. But one person was like, "You should go talk to their parents." Clearly, you didn't get bullied in school. Now, granted, it's just our apartment complex, but if I were to go find the kids' parents and talk to them, it has to be something big. It would have to be something more than just them picking on him and maybe them getting into a little scuffle. It'd have to be something that's borderline or straight up illegal. Because otherwise, now I just made my kid a tattletale. And whereas most of the kids around here don't have anything against my kid, they're just kind of indifferent, every single one of them will now be picking on him. I know this from experience. My mother wanted to do that. My father told her don't. She did, and that made things 10 times worse. It went from a couple of kids picking on me at school to every kid picking on me at school. Luckily, we moved a lot when I was a kid, so I had to deal with it for like 3 or 4 months. But still, that is the worst thing I can do. It comes down to, do I want to go out there and confront these kids? Yes. Do I wish it was just a little bit legal to go punch them in the face? Sure. But Daddy cannot go over there and get involved in every little problem he has. He's got to learn how to fix some things by himself. And I will give you an example of why. A few years ago, I was working with this kid. Granted, he was 23, but still, when you're close to, if not over 40, kid. This 23-year-old was living in his first apartment with just him and his girlfriend at the time, but finally living outside of mommy's. And in the break room one day, he's telling us, "Yeah, our kitchen sink has been broken for a while. It leaks like crazy every time you turn it on. We've been having to wash dishes in our bathroom sink. And trying to get my landlord to fix it has been a nightmare." And at first we were just talking and didn't think nothing of that. I just told him, like, yeah, I've been in situations like that with landlords. They like to drag their feet and not fix things. And sometimes getting them to fix things is like pulling teeth. But I told him there are certain things that they don't have a choice in fixing If they don't fix, you can withhold rent. Plumbing is one of those things. Yeah, I know. That's what my mom had told me. Again, I didn't think nothing of that because I remember telling my dad about a situation like that when I was young and living on my own. I was having a problem with the heat. There was no heat in my apartment in the middle of winter. And I called my parents. I didn't know what to do. And they told me, yeah, here's what you do. You call your landlord and you tell them they have 48 hours to fix it, or you're going to call the Department of Housing. And it was good advice. That's what I did. And within a day or two, they finally fixed my heater. And I was telling this guy that, and again, he said, yeah, that's what my mom said. Oh, good. So did you do it? Did you call your landlord and tell them that? No, I was too nervous. I got anxiety thinking about calling my landlord. Well, I get that, but dude, you kind of have to if you want your sink fixed. Well, it's okay. My mom did it for me. Come again? My mom. I told her I was nervous, so she called my landlord for me. What? I wasn't the only one staring at him like that. There were a few of us at that table, and all of us who were 30 or over were staring at him like, are you kidding me? You had your mother, who you do not live with, call the landlord to an apartment complex she does not live at, to threaten to call the Department of Housing if they don't go up there and fix your sink. Yeah? That's what parents do. Not my parents! And I wouldn't do that either with my kids. I'd give them advice like my dad did. Sure, no problem. I get it. You're living out on your own. You don't necessarily know everything you should do. So yeah, you call and be like, hey, what should I do? Try this. Okay. But if you don't want to follow my advice and go do it because you're too scared, your problem. You're actually telling me that your dad would have said no. No, my dad wouldn't have said no. In that conversation, if I would have asked my dad, like, hey, do you think you could call my landlord for me because I'm too nervous to do it? His reaction would have been more like, right. And that is exactly what would have happened. He would have laughed as he hung up. But here's the problem. This isn't one pathetic 23-year-old. I've told this story later, and I'm getting stories from other early 20-somethings about how, yeah, their parents did something like that for them too. Like they didn't know how to do this, so their parents did it for them. Adult stuff. Like they needed something cleared up in the DMV, so their parents called for them. Or they had a problem with their electric bill, so their parents called them for them. Or their car broke down and they needed a bus schedule, so their parents called it for them. What the frick? My parents weren't willing to do that kind of stuff. And I appreciate that. Because now one of my parents is gone. One of my parents, he's not gone, but he's old, he's getting up there. They can't do that kind of stuff for me anymore. And guess what? I don't need them to. I can do it myself. And this is why they need to fix some of their own problems. So that later, when they're adults, they can fix their own problems. Sorry, but we can't fix all their problems. So there you have it. That's my story of you this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when I post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me if you encountered somebody like this who pathetically needed their parents' help as an adult. If you're one of those people, start doing things yourself. Love you guys.